rational manner. You mentioned that how we think the world works is nothing like how it really works. And this is something that I've spent a lot of time trying to understand is like, okay, is it then, the Committee of 300, which oversees these organizations, and what's above that and what's above that? And I know that, especially what we see now through the Epstein information, is that it's apparent that the control mechanisms at that level are these types of things, right? Blackmail and bribery and everything. But who would you say is controlling this stuff, and how does that control work? That's different different than what we perceive.
Yeah. Well, that saying all the world's a stage is actually literally true. The hierarchy, if you view it as a pyramid, then the bottom layer is us, it's humanity, and we're holding up this power structure. The layer right above us are presidents, heads of states, prime ministers, politicians. They're actually actors purely. They don't actually have much power in terms of the rest of the hierarchy. They're the face front to us. And then we're told, oh, there's this choice, the left or the right. They're all working for the same overlords. There's actually these people behind the scenes are all partying together and raping children together. So that's a false thing, but it's designed to keep us divided and fighting each other, and add in gender and race and everything else, so that we won't notice that, the people above that are abusing us and harvesting us. So that's just something important to know, that that's all a show. I call it, like the former president, I say it was Blue Donkey Productions starring Joe Biden, and now it's Red Elephant Productions starring Donald Trump. Now, a lot of people are going to get mad about that because the Savior program is so strong. It's another program. It's a mind control program for us to keep us passive, to keep us doing nothing and waiting for someone to come save us, whether it's a politician or a Pleiadian in a spaceship or Jesus, who was a real person, existed, but is not. No one's coming to save us. That's actually, I think, our own growth point here is evolving out of being slaves, and accepting that passively, like we have been as a human race. And it's a lot of it isn't our fault because we've been mind controlled into believing things are, so we're ignorant of how everything works. So then after that layer, that bottom layer that faces us, you have all these other layers, and it includes things like you mentioned, like the Committee of 300 and militaries and generals and the CIA, and so all the intelligence agencies. And then you go a little higher and you get entities like the Vatican, the Freemasons, the Illuminati. They all work together, but they're sort of sub factions. The entire world is basically run by a satanic cult. They're psychopaths, they're pedophiles, they're parasitic. So they harvest us physically, etherically, spiritually. And so at the tippy top of the pyramid, and this is going to sound, we're already in crazy land for some people with what's released in Epstein. So I'll just go there, but they're not human. Okay. So these are interdimensional beings that have come to this planet, that have taken it over, and they are dark. They are evil. And so they are patriarchal. So they have created everything in that image. And then the whole hierarchy is completely compartmentalized. So different rungs have different tasks and things that they do, and they have different amounts of the big picture. And right below that tippy top, and still above all the things like the Vatican and the Freemasons or whatever, are covens, believe it or not. So practitioners of black magic, that's a big part of the control structure. So that ask me more questions, but that's basically the hierarchy. So every institution that we have on this planet, everything has been either created or infiltrated by this cult. So that's why no one's getting arrested, because they control the military and the police and the justice system. And so, for example, the medical system, we used to have, real healing like herbs and energetic healing. And then the Rockefellers, which are one of the bloodline families, that's a layer in that hierarchy as well. They created the allopathic medical system deliberately to slow poison us and slow kill us, profit off that process, and then shorten our lifespan and kill us prematurely. So that entire system, this is hard for the human to grok because we've been taught to trust these people. We look at them as like our parental figures, benevolent, and they're not. They're actually, as a good example, the medical and pharmaceutical system are designed to harm us by its inherent design. See? So, then everyone knows the food is toxic, the water is fluoridated, they spray us with chemtrails. Like these people, they worship Lucifer, they worship dark demonic entities. They are a death cult. They also need us because they're parasitic. They have been cut off from the creator, what God, whatever you call that, the oneness. And because they're cut off from the life force. Their highest achievement is ego, right? Which is why they're into power and fame and wealth and all those worldly things. So they, like many movies and TV shows, are revealing the truth. We're their batteries, like Morpheus says to Neo in the Matrix, right? So they need us. They particularly like to prey on babies and children because of their purity, their essence, their soul. They've just come in from God into a human body, so that energy is very rich to them, and they harvest it etherically, and then they harvest it physically in the form of blood and flesh eating as well, right? So they paradoxically hate us. They consider us cattle. And they want to depopulate us, but to a point, they have to keep some of us because we're their energy, their fuel source, if you will. And we're also co-creators with God, but they can't create anything. They can only piggyback off existing creation. So what they do is they get us to create this, now that we see it clearly, hell on earth reality. Now, how do they do that? They use trauma-based mind control. So the same things they did to me, they do to the collective. Wars, funded and planned by these people on both sides, are not organic. Poverty and scarcity, completely engineered. This planet is abundant for all of us, right? All the false flags like 9/11 and the COVID pandemic and everything, it causes constant trauma and stress in the human collective. The human collective dissociates. They program you with their mind control, just same way they did to individuals, they do to the collective. And they've gotten us to then do their actual dirty work and create the reality that we now live in as a collective. And even on a very physical level, someone is flying those planes that are spraying us with the chemtrails, okay? Someone is injecting little children with toxic vaccines, okay? Some teacher is sexualizing your child in kindergarten and teaching them how to masturbate because the UNESCO said this is the new curriculum. See, someone is going to another country to kill people and blow up their villages. So I hope that makes sense. Like that's kind of I mean, I know that's a lot, but I'll stop here and let you ask more questions.
Unfortunately,